Hello, Perl class. Now we're going to talk about the expert corner, which deals with basic authentication. Here's the link to the beginning PL program that you can start with this code. This is a tutorial, but it also gives you the tools necessary to implement this application. In Linux, a basic authenticated directory is one which requires a user ID and a password to access. Whenever a directory is accessed from the web, the first thing the Apache server does is check for the existence of a dot file named .htpassword within that directory. If it exists, then the server validates the user based on information that file provides. So the purpose of this exercise is to create a program to automatically set up such authenticated folder. Of course, before you can have a program create a basic authenticated folder or directory, you have to be able to do this by hand, and this is the first thing that we're going to do. Here's a tutorial to create such folder. So we're going to look it over and then we're going to go ahead and do it. We're going to create a directory, okay? Any directory, but make sure it's in public HTML, of course. You're going to make sure that's 755. You're going to create a file named htaccess inside of that directory, .htaccess. We can call this a magic file because this is the file that needs to be present in order for Apache to check the username and password. The content of the file is going to be started right here. I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And note that there's the first line has a path to where the password file is to be found for the username trying to access this folder. In this case is home, and user ID would be your gen account. Okay, make sure that this file is located in your user account, of course. And the name of this file can be anything, though people use .ht also to fit the required one. But this is a user-defined name. The subject of directory content, this string here can be anything that you want the dialog box to say. Authenticate basic, it's a keyword. Then go ahead and continue writing these characters. Require user. Okay, here, this is where you want to put the name of the user which is allowed inside that directory, and that's it. Note for text above that htapassword is not reserved. Okay, and you can have more than one user. Just separate them with a space, so you can add more users. You can have several users to have access to a directory. Finally, here's a spelling error. Usually lives in the root. So yes, you're going to put this htapassword file in your home directory for obvious reasons. And finally, as far as completing this by hand, we're going to have to give ourselves a password and have it stored in this new file that we created. Here's the command to do this. This is called htapassword. You can use a C to create the password file if it does not yet exist. And here's the dear user, and the password will be asked shortly thereafter. Anything else before we start? Yes, this password file has to be chmodded to 644. If this is not done this way, it will not work, so that's important. So in other words, when opening a folder, if it sees that file, it will prompt the user for a password. htaccess, this dot file, will tell where to find the password, and the rest is history. So now we're asking that, especially the online folks, be sure to create one of those yourselves. Once you know how to do that, then you'll be able to simulate that process with a Perl program. The Perl program is going to um, have several specifications. We'll take a look at those after we create our password protected basic authenticate. Okay, so here we go. I'm in my account. I have another directory called test that already contains a couple basic authenticate folders. I'm going to add a new one. Make dir test. Now we're going to go into test. Look inside. There's of course nothing. Even if I do /a, we don't have any dot files. So we're going to create one. Pico ht access, and that's not the one. I need to paste the information that is necessary inside of that file. So let's go get it again. It's right here. And let's modify this file. Home, I'm gonna call my directory, in your case would be a gen account. HD password, I'm going to add test next to it because I already have another one of those. Subject or directory content, we can just leave that alone, but remember you can change that. Basic user ID. Okay, I'm going to call this, let's allow Fred to access this particular folder. Okay, this is it. If I do list long, there's the htaccess file. Now, so again, based on the path here, I have to make sure that I have such a file in my home account, correct? Okay, I'm gonna copy this and let's go back to the shell, and we need to issue this command right here. User local machine bin password. C, we might as well have the password. Well, we might as well have it create the necessary password file. So let's copy all of this to the shell. Let's paste this and see what the deal is. Home, we want of course to go to John D. HT password test is the file I'm meant to use, and Fred is the one for whom we need an account. Press enter. New password. I'm just gonna type Fred. Keep it simple, and retype it. Adding password for Fred. Okay, now let's get out of test and public HTML and list the files that are the dot files, and let's take a look, and we should have a new file up here. Oh, I'm still in the public HTML, sorry. List A, and here's HT password test. We're going to open this file just to see what it looks like, and here's Fred. This is the way the file is written out. The information is written out in the password file, the username, colon, and then you see a password which is encrypted. Okay, what is the next part? We have to make sure we chmod this file 644, and that is done. Therefore, we should be ready. Let's look at our directions again. And so the next thing to do is to test this out. I'm going to go to John D. Test, and one more test. This should be a folder, and it's basic authenticated. I'm going to type in Fred and Fred, and if I'm lucky, I get in. Otherwise, you have to do it over, folks, and find out the step that was missing. Okay, quickly, let's look at the requirements for this little program, which is basically going to do the same thing we just did. What you want to do, the program is going to be passing 4 parameters and produce an error if any of these are missing. So you're going to need when you run the program with a // method, and you don't have to do this from CGI now, strictly from the shell. You'll have to enter a username, dir name to create the folder if it doesn't exist. The username is you, okay, because you're allowed to. That's your gen account. The directory, well, dir user and the passwords are the ones who will be allowed in a directory. Now let's clarify this. Username Linux user, where folder will be created. Of course, it's going to be yours right now, but as a system administrator, you should be able to create such folder in any user account. So this is why this is here. This is what it's for. The user is going to ask you to create such an account, and they'll want a particular name for the folder. So your program will need that one too. Call it basic authent.pl, and it should perform the manual step described above. Instead of using the command htpassword done manually, the program will encrypt the password and insert it into this file itself in the proper format. And this is important because we have some code here that allows you to encrypt password from Perl, and it is accepted by Linux. It's going to create a new folder if it does not already exist. If the folder already exists, of course, you don't want to recreate it. You just want to basic authenticate it. If the user already exists in the htpassword file, then you should replace that information instead of appending a new one, obviously, because sometimes you want to change the password of an existing user. The password file is not passed as a parameter, and that could be an improvement if you really want to make this useful for yourself as an administrator. But in this case, you'll just have to have that file already in existence, okay? Extra point, if folder already has more than one user, then you can add another user, and remember, just use a space, not a comma. And make that program somewhat interactive. So tell us what the program is doing, such as the user already exists. Is it okay to replace? Or whatever like this. Okay? And down below you have additional, you have some code here that helps you get started. Notice this array here, argv. This special variable from Perl will contain all the parameters that are found after the call for a program. And you can, here's a print statement that you can use, that you can start from to give you an error message if the correct amount of arguments are not there. And here we are using this method here. Here's a nice little subroutine you can use as is. Here you simply pass it the password that the user wants to use, and this will return the encrypted version. So all you have to do is open this file for writing, and this is the symbol to write, and this is a symbol to append. So be sure to read this carefully. This will finalize most of what we need to know as far as opening files for reading and writing. That's it. Thank you very much, folks.